Hello, I am Lee Worman with Profit Team Consulting, coming to you for the first time on live Facebook, and it's definitely going to be an experience for me. I'm used to starting out and having some levity by either giving Rob or Mike a hard time, and well, they're not here today to do it. So I guess with that, I'm just going to really kind of get into what we're talking about and what our topic will be today. And so we titled it Management Techniques. And anytime with management techniques, you're talking about different ways to manage. But what I'd really rather do is kind of shift gears and go back to the beginning of what is management. So there are a ton of definitions out there for management. You can look in the Webster, you can look at all kinds of stuff. But I've had one that I've kind of used because it simplifies it for me. And so I'd like to kind of share that. And it is like I mean, it's nothing special. It is just says management is the process of guiding the development, maintenance, and allocation of resources to attain organizational goals. So basically, what it's saying is it's just guiding the development, maintaining things so that they're going in the right direction, allocating the resources so that you can get to where you're supposed to be going. And so it also has a little caveat on it that says this process is based in four key functional areas of the organization: planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. So in planning, that's pretty simple. You basically, as a manager, you are there to help direct and let them know which way we're steering the ship. So where are we going with the business? And then the planning side of it is to communicate that with everyone else in the organization. Then organizing is basically taking those pieces and putting them together in a way that you think can accomplish getting to that goal. And then, of course, leading. Leading, a lot of people think about as an example, and I agree with that. Your example means a lot here, but it doesn't mean that you can't manage effectively on limited time. I think a lot of people are like, they're covered for time. Like, say, if you're a general manager and you can't be in every department, but each department also has the direction it needs to go. What your job is when you're leading and set an example is the little bit of time that you can allocate to that. They need to make sure and see you going in the direction that you're leading them to. So a lot of times people are like, example, it means you work the hardest or you got to do. It doesn't necessarily mean that. What it means is that even if it's a short amount of time that that employee gets to spend with you or see you or see what you're doing, that time just needs to be heading towards the same goal and same direction that you've asked them to head. That's what leading is. It doesn't mean you're with them 24/7 holding their hand, but it does mean that when they see you, they understand that you've got the same thing in mind. You're heading towards the same direction. And then controlling. It's kind of like basically when people get off the reservation, you can either bring them back in or you can replace them with somebody that will stay on course. And so with that, it's not, to me, I like it because it simplifies it for me. It makes it easy for me to realize, okay, this isn't hard. I just need to figure out where we're going. And then the hard part for me would be the organization part, because that's a weakness of mine. And organize that. And then for me, I would go get help and say, help me figure this out and help this organize. And then the leading, it was always an easy thing for me. I understood you stay focused on the head. And then the controlling part of it, which is just setting the parameters, the accountability. One time someone said, accountability comes from awkward and difficult conversations. And so that's part of the controlling side of it. And so once you realize, okay, that's not that hard. It's really not that hard. It's basically I'm going there and we put it all together and we just all have to stay together on this deal and follow my lead. Now, once you realize exactly what all that is, self-awareness becomes huge to you as a manager. And that's why I'm not really getting into techniques just yet, because of the simple fact that I don't think put it this way, there's a million techniques out there probably, and I'm sure I'm exaggerating a million, but there's a bunch. There's been businesses for hundreds of years. I'm not going to come in today and drop a bombshell on you and you're like, holy cow, that technique's never existed. No. And so where I'm really coming at it today isn't from, oh, I've got a new technique or all these techniques you've never heard of. That's not what I'm doing. What I'm doing is trying to say that you learn about what management is And then you learn a little bit about who you are. And then you'll get to the techniques that can be the ones that are the most advantageous to the business. So self-awareness is the best thing a manager can do to improve. Learning what you are not good at can only help you either improve it or learn to lean on others for the help needed. And realize this, management has no place for a big ego. A little swagger, that's okay. I'm all right with a little swagger because you do need to be confident. They do need to know that you feel like you know where you're going. You feel like you know where they need to go. So a little swagger, that's not too bad. But ego, too much of it, will hurt your ability to relate to your employees. So make sure, it's a fine line there for some people, but it's okay to have swagger, but don't have ego. In other words, know you have weaknesses. Know you're not perfect. Sometimes there are people underneath you in the organizational chart that are much better at things than you are. And you'd be a fool to not take that and use that person's strength to help you lead better. So realize that. So you need to carry this knowledge over into your hiring practices as well, and also consider if the employee will be happy in the job you're offering. So, I want to do the self-awareness because I also know it's going to help me do the techniques. But here's another reason. If I'm a manager and I know, in my case, my weakness was organization. If I was hiring for somebody in the office that worked really close to me, and I could catch on in an interview that they were the type of person that couldn't deal with a little bit of that of me, then I would know right then and there probably to not hire them and put them in that situation. Even though they may have all the credentials, I would realize that my lack of organization skills that I'm going to need their help from, they're not going to have the patience for it. So self-awareness is not only about you learning what techniques to use in management, but it's also learning what employees will fit best with your management style. So once we realize this is what management is, this is the direction we're headed, this is how we're going to organize it, this is me leading, this is me controlling the different areas, I know what I'm good at, I know what I'm not good at, now I understand where I need to go to get help, what the areas are. Now it's time for me to start looking at some different techniques on what might fit my personality style. And there are so many out there, and I don't want to sit there and keep everybody all day today. So really and truly, I'm just going to go through, 10 or 11 of them real quick, just to give you examples of ones that you can actually, say, oh, that one might fit my style, that one might not fit my style. Doling out recognition when it is deserved. And I bring that up first because when I've spent a lot of time in this industry, obviously, I'm a lifer, and this is something that I feel like as an industry, we are weak in the management level. We're not really great at giving out recognition. We're not really good at saying, I need you to do that over there, and then 2 days later when you come back, they've done it and they did an exceptionally great job. We're not really good at saying, hey, not only did you do it, you did an excellent job. What we're really actually good at is figuring out, hey, we haven't done this lately. Have you noticed this lately? Have you corrected this? Have we done that? That is part of our job. But we can't lose sight of the fact there are good things happening around us every day. And one of the other things that's a management technique is making employees' happiness a priority. Now, I'm not saying that that's everybody's, so maybe that's not your style, but what I am saying is the recognition feeds into that too. So those techniques go kind of hand in hand. There are a lot of, if there's not anything good going around in your business, then really you got to start looking in the mirror. But there should be plenty of good things that you can actually have some recognition here and have some recognition there that might actually lead to a little bit of happiness for your employees. Make your company goals transparent and provide consistent feedback. Doesn't sound like a hard management technique, but that word consistent feedback is one that falls on deaf ears many times. You can tell everybody, hey, this is where we're going, and these are the goals, but if you don't consistently give them, this is where we're at, then you'll lose them a little bit. You'll lose that motivation, especially if we're way ahead of attaining our goal. We fall guilty all the time of, oh, it's not important to really give them the numbers because they're not behind. They're really, really far ahead. So I don't want to tell them that and have them pull it. No, don't go that route. This is consistent. If you're going to give them feedback, say, I'll give you feedback every 2 weeks, every month, and stick to it. So the consistency on the feedback, that's a management technique. Provide training and career development. That's something I'm a part of in this industry. And I'm actually really proud of the fact that I believe our industry does a better job than most industries of continuing to educate our employees if they're willing to actually go and do the education. Another thing is troubleshoot problems. That doesn't sound like anything major, but really what it's referring to is problems with your employees. And it's saying when you troubleshoot, it doesn't just mean you point it out to an employee. What you do is you bring it in, and so you say bring the employee in, and you let them see, okay, you're having problems getting to work on time. Here's what the result of that is when you do that, and your coworkers have to do this, and they have to do this, and you let them know this is what's happening with the business when you do this, when you're performing weaker in this. How do we solve this problem together? That's what management technique really is in troubleshooting problems is how do we, you bring them in as part of the solution. If they're part of the problem, and Rob and I had this conversation not too long ago when we were talking about somebody, and I said, if that person is a part of the problem, they have to be a part of the solution. They can't be a part of the problem and not part of the solution. So, make sure that when you are troubleshooting, which is, like I said, a good management technique, but you're bringing them in to be a part of the solution. And then that way, when they don't correct their behavior, when they've actually had that interaction, or if they just use it as a griping fest and really didn't ever look at themselves in the mirror, that'll tell you something too. Then you've got to know when to let people go. So make sure, and that's a very hard thing in our industry. We have a lot of kind-hearted people in our industry. Mike will say all the time that that's one of the things that the corporate world might would have over a family-owned business is they don't have time for a project, whereas our heart gives us time for a project at times. But let you know that stats show one underperformer can reduce a team's productivity by 30 to 40%. You still troubleshoot the problem, and you go through it with them to get them to help you get a solution. But when the solution doesn't occur quickly, move on. Another management technique that I will tell you for new managers, they have to be careful. If you've got a new manager, do not micromanage. You manage, but you do not micromanage. And a lot of people think that leading means showing them you can do the job that they can do. And that's not necessarily. Sometimes that's micromanaging. Your job isn't to do their work for them. Your job is to show them how important their work is as part of the whole overall picture. And then your job is to do what you need to do as far as guiding and steering the ship. So make sure that when you manage, you're not micromanaging. Another one, learn technology. In our industry, it's now become huge. So learn technology. Don't just say, I'm not good at that stuff. Don't do that. It's too important a part of our business any longer to ignore it. And it can do so much for us. Other thing, another management technique, focus on the big picture. As a manager, your job is to like I said, steer the big ship. Focus on the big picture. Model good time management. In other words, learn to take care of urgent tasks quickly and as soon as possible so that you can turn around and have the same expectation for your employees. When I became part of the corporate world for the time that I spent there, one of the things that they were big on was reading a book and being able to actually, show that you did read it, more or less. And I'm not a big reader, but I read Who Eat the Frog, and it basically was saying, you got to get the bad stuff out of the way. You got to get the urgent stuff out of the way. If you do that, it changes your day. If you can do it as quickly as possible, if you can not let things linger. It was probably the best book that I ever read on that side. It wasn't an entertaining book. It's boring as all get out, as we say in the South. But what it did do is it did bring to light that was my weakness too, is that I would push stuff off for a while. And once I learned to tackle that, then it made me much more confident in demanding that from my employees and the people that work for me, because I didn't want to be a hypocrite. So I was able to do that and then go to them and say, this works. I need you to do this. So that's absolutely another technique. There's several more, and I could go into all of them. But really, my point of today isn't so much the techniques, even though that's the title of it. It's the fact that you need to learn and make sure you understand what management truly is, and then become self-aware of what you are as a manager, and then implement that into not only the techniques, because there's 100 techniques. So what you do is you find out, this is what I'm good at and this is what I'm not good at. These are the techniques that will fit my personality and help me be the most effective manager. Then you go out and you manage everybody, and over time you have to replace people, you implement it into your hiring practices. These are the people that will be happy working for my management style. And then you're going to end up being the best manager you can be, and you're going to do a good job for your company. I do want to point out, I appreciate your time, and thank you very much. And also, next week, Mike and Rob are going to be having a discussion on pricing philosophy. Sounds very interesting, It's something that we all talk about in this industry on a regular basis. So I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much. And every one of you have a good day.